Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to be, going deep into generative AI and how it's changing the job market.
Yeah, it's a hot topic these days, right? A lot of folks are kind of worried about robots taking over.
Definitely. It's understandable to feel that way, especially with all the buzz about AI lately.
Which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive. We're going to break down what's real and what's hype based on the latest research.
Awesome. So for this deep dive, our main source is a paper titled The Labor Market Effects of Generative Artificial Intelligence.
Fresh off the press, too. Published just last month, December 2024.
Very recent research, which means we're getting the most up-to-date insights. By the end of this deep dive, you'll know a lot more about where AI is showing up at work and what it could mean for your own career.
And for the future of work in general, really, it's a big one.
It is. Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's make sure we're all on the same page. What exactly is generative AI? What makes it different from other types of AI?
So generative AI, it's this type of artificial intelligence that can create new content, right? Not just analyze existing stuff. We're talking text, images, audio, even video, all generated by AI.
Oh, so like ChatGPT, I guess.
Exactly. ChatGPT is a great example. It's everywhere these days. And those crazy AI image generators, the ones that make those super realistic pictures.
Yeah, those are pretty wild.
They're all powered by what we call large language models, or LLMs.
LLMs, right? I've heard that term thrown around, but I don't really get what they are.
Think of LLMs as like the brains behind these AI systems. They're trained on massive amounts of data so they can understand and then generate human-like text.
I see. So that's how they can write poems and hold conversations and all that.
Pretty much, yeah. And what's really interesting is some experts are starting to think of generative AI as a potential general-purpose technology.
A general-purpose technology. Okay, now you're just using big words to scare me. What does that even mean?
No worries. I'll break it down. Think about inventions that totally changed how whole economies work, not just one industry.
Like the steam engine.
Exactly. The steam engine, electricity, the internet, things like that. They completely revolutionized how we live and work. And researchers think AI could be that big.
Wow, that's a big claim. So they're saying AI could be as transformative as the internet. That's kind of hard to wrap my head around.
It is, yeah. But the research we're diving into today, it actually supports that idea. It gets into how AI is already impacting the workforce in some pretty major ways.
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. How much is generative AI actually being used in workplaces right now? I'm really curious about that.
Well, according to the research paper, a surprising number of people are already using it. As of December 2024, their survey found 30.1% of workers have used generative AI on the job.
Wait, hold on. Almost a third of workers are already using AI at work. Seriously, I had no idea it was that widespread.
It's moving fast. And what's interesting is this number lines up with what other surveys are finding, including some from Pew Research.
So this isn't just a fluke. It seems like AI is really becoming a regular part of the workplace. And remember that stat about how many people used AI during their job search?
Oh yeah, that was pretty striking. Over half of the folks who'd been unemployed in the past 2 years, they said they used generative AI in their job hunt.
Wow. So even if you're not employed right now, AI can be a useful tool to help you get back into the workforce.
Exactly. It's not just for people who are already employed. Now, when we look at who's using AI at work, some patterns emerge.
Ooh, I like patterns. Tell me more.
The research found that younger people, people with more education, and people with higher incomes are all more likely to use AI on the job.
So it's kind of the tech-savvy crowd, the folks who are already ahead of the curve.
Yeah, you could say that. They might be more comfortable with technology in general, but they're also likely to have jobs that lend themselves well to AI tools.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like jobs where you're analyzing data or creating content, that's where AI can really shine.
Right. And speaking of income, nearly 50% of workers earning over $200,000 a year, they're using generative AI.
Okay, so not only are the higher-ups using AI, they're using it a lot. Does that mean AI is helping them earn more, or are they just in roles that are easier to enhance with AI? It makes you wonder.
It does, yeah. And it raises questions about how AI might impact income inequality in the future. But let's switch gears for a second and talk about industries. Does the type of work you do affect how likely you are to use AI?
That's a good question. I'm guessing it does.
So what does the research say about AI usage across different industries?
It varies quite a bit, actually. Some industries are way ahead of the curve, while others are lagging behind.
Okay, give me the highlights. Which industries are leading the AI charge?
The top two are information services and management of companies. over 60% of workers in those fields are using generative AI. Makes sense. Those are industries where, information is key. They're probably using AI to analyze data, automate tasks, all that good stuff.
Exactly. Then you've got industries like real estate, construction, and education, all with over 40% of workers using AI in some capacity. But I'm actually more curious about the industries where AI isn't as common, like agriculture, forestry, fishing, mining, even government.
Yeah. What's up with that? Why are those sectors lagging behind?
I think it has to do with the nature of the work. A lot of these jobs involve tasks that are more physical, more hands-on, or require a level of human interaction that AI just can't replicate yet.
So no robot farmers or AI politicians anytime soon.
Probably not. And in government, you've got other factors that could be slowing AI adoption, like regulations, security concerns, and just the general pace of change in big bureaucracies. But the million-dollar question here is, how is all this AI usage affecting productivity? Is it actually making people more efficient?
Yeah. Does AI actually help us get more done, or is it just a fancy distraction?
This is where the research gets really interesting. They asked workers who use generative AI how much time it saves them, on average, per task.
Okay, drum roll, please.
The average was 1 hour saved.
No way. An hour per task? That's huge. I was starting to rethink how I do my work now.
It is a big deal. For some tasks, it could be even more time saved. So the potential is there for AI to significantly increase our output for certain types of work.
But here's another question. If AI can potentially triple productivity, are we all going to be working 3-day work weeks soon? Is that the future?
Well, the research doesn't go that far, but they did find that workers are using generative AI for about a third of their work week right now.
Interesting. So maybe 3-day work weeks aren't right around the corner, but it's pretty clear that AI is already changing how much we can get done in a given amount of time.
And that brings up a really important point. What are the long-term effects of these productivity gains going to be? I mean, will we even need as many workers if everyone's suddenly 3 times more productive? What happens to our workloads, our job roles? It's something to think about.
It's true. It's almost like AI is this double-edged sword. It can boost productivity, but it could also lead to job displacement.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Economists often talk about complements and substitutes when they're discussing how technology and labor interact.
Okay, break that down for me. What do those terms mean in plain English?
Sure. So a complement is something that makes something else more valuable, right? In this case, AI could be a complement to higher skilled workers, making them even more productive and therefore more valuable to their employers.
So AI is like a sidekick, making us even better at what we do. What about substitute?
A substitute is something that can replace something else. So the worry is that generative AI could become a substitute for lower skilled jobs, leading to job losses in those areas.
Okay, so AI could either make certain skills super important or make them completely obsolete. Is there any evidence that this is already happening, like in the real world?
There is, actually. The research paper looks at some fascinating data from Upwork, the online freelancing platform.
Upwork. Interesting. What's happening there?
Well, Upwork gives us a real-time look at how AI is affecting the demand for different skills in the gig economy. They found that after ChatGPT came out, overall freelancer earnings actually went up.
So AI is actually boosting the gig economy. That's not what I would have guessed.
It's a bit more complicated than that. While overall earnings went up, certain sectors saw a decline. For example, writing, translation, and customer service all saw earnings go down.
That makes sense. Those are tasks that AI can probably do now, at least to some extent.
Exactly. But on the flip side, fields like software development and IT, those actually saw an increase in earnings after ChatGPT's release. It seems like AI is acting more as a complement in those areas, boosting the value of those skills.
So it's creating winners and losers, even in the freelance world. The big question is, what does all this mean for the future of work? I mean, are we all doomed to be replaced by robots?
That's the billion-dollar question, and unfortunately, no one has a crystal ball. The research paper makes it clear that the long-term effects of generative AI, especially on the macro level, are still very uncertain. There are all sorts of predictions out there, and experts don't really agree on what's going to happen.
So give me an example. What kind of predictions are we talking about?
Well, some studies, like one by Goldman Sachs, they suggest that generative AI could lead to a massive jump in global GDP, like a 7% increase over the next decade.
A 7% increase. Whoa, that's huge.
I know, right? But then you've got other projections that are a lot more modest, suggesting smaller GDP increases or even some negative impacts in certain sectors. The truth is, we're still in the early days of this whole AI revolution, so it's tough to say for sure how it's all going to shake out.
Okay, so there's a lot of uncertainty about the future. But one thing's for sure, AI is already having a real impact on the labor market, and it's only going to get bigger.
Absolutely. And that's why it's crucial to stay informed, stay adaptable, and keep learning new skills so you can stay ahead of the curve.
Great point. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up part 1 of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's much more to explore.
Definitely. In part 2, we'll get into the specific skills that are likely to be in high demand in this AI-driven world. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
And we're back. Ready for more AI talk.
I'm ready when you are. We've established that AI is already changing the workplace. Like, it's happening now.
Yeah, and its impact is only going to grow from here, right? So that begs the question, what skills are going to be most valuable in this new world of work? What do people need to learn to stay ahead of the curve?
That's the million-dollar question, right? The paper doesn't hand us a list, but it does highlight some trends that give us some clues.
Okay, lay it on me. What are the skills of the future? What should we be focusing on?
Well, one thing's for sure. Understanding data and how to work with it is going to be crucial. Data is like the language of AI.
Yeah, data's everywhere these days. But what does that mean in terms of actual skills? What do people need to be able to do with data?
As AI gets better at crunching huge amounts of data, people who can manage that data, clean it up, and pull out meaningful insights, those are the folks who are going to be in high demand.
So data analysts, data scientists, anyone who can wrangle data, those are the jobs of the future.
Absolutely. But it's not just about technical skills. Those are important, but the ability to think critically, to solve problems in creative ways, to communicate clearly, those skills are going to be just as important.
Mm-hmm. This is like pretty universal skills, not just specific to AI.
You're right, they are. But here's the thing. Those skills become even more crucial when AI is taking over a lot of the routine tasks.
Because it frees up humans to focus on the more complex stuff, the creative stuff, the big picture thinking.
Exactly. AI is a powerful tool, right? But humans need to be the ones steering the ship, making those big decisions, and making sure we're using this tech for good.
Makes sense. We can't just sit back and let the machines take over. We need to be in control, using AI to make us better, not replace us.
100%. And that brings us to another important point. Adaptability and lifelong learning. Those are going to be key.
Right. Because the tech is changing so fast, right?
Exactly. What's hot today might be obsolete tomorrow. You got to be able to adapt quickly, learn new things, and constantly be leveling up your skill set. If you want to stay ahead of the game, that is.
It's not about getting that degree and then coasting for the rest of your career. It's about having that growth mindset, being curious, always wanting to learn.
Exactly. Being a lifelong learner, whether you like it or not. And there's something else, too. AI is still not that great at replicating things like emotional intelligence, empathy, genuine creativity. Humans still have the edge there.
Oh, interesting. So those are the uniquely human qualities that will become even more valuable in the workplace. It's not all doom and gloom, then.
Not at all. Think about it. As AI takes over more of the routine technical stuff, the demand for skills that require emotional intelligence, stuff like collaboration, communication, leadership, ethical decision-making, those are probably going to skyrocket.
It's not just about those hard skills, but the essential soft skills, too. I hadn't really thought about it like that.
And the line between those hard and soft skills, it might start to blur.
What do you mean? Give me an example.
Well, think about being able to work effectively with AI systems. You need the technical understanding, but you also need to be able to communicate your goals, your intentions to the AI.
You need to be able to speak the language of both machines and people.
Exactly. And that's just one example. As AI becomes more integrated into everything we do, being able to interact with it, understand its limitations and leverage its strengths, that's going to be critical across the board.
So basically, we need to become fluent in AI.
I like that. Fluent in AI. And fluency goes beyond just the technical aspects. It's about understanding the ethical side of things, advocating for responsible use, and pushing for policies that promote fairness and equity.
Right. Because AI is a tool, right? And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Exactly. It's on us to shape the future of AI, make sure it's being used to benefit everyone, not just a select few.
Okay, so data skills, critical thinking, adaptability, emotional intelligence, ethical awareness, anything else? Any other areas you think would be particularly valuable?
One that's often overlooked is the ability to understand and work with, like, really complex systems.
When you say systems, what do you mean exactly?
Well, on one level, AI systems themselves are crazy complex, right? All those algorithms and data. But zooming out a bit, the world itself is becoming super interconnected. Everything's a system. Supply chains, financial markets, social networks, you name it.
So we need to be able to see the big picture, how all the pieces fit together, how they influence each other.
Exactly. You need that systems thinking approach to understand feedback loops, anticipate those unintended consequences, and make smarter decisions.
That sounds like a tall order.
It can be, but it's also incredibly rewarding. When you start to see the world through that systems lens, you get this much deeper understanding of how things actually work.
It's like shifting from linear thinking to systems thinking, a whole new perspective.
Precisely. And that shift in thinking, it's going to be essential in this AI-driven world.
Okay, so we've covered a lot about the skills of the future. But what about the jobs themselves? What kinds of jobs do you think will emerge or, evolve as AI becomes more and more prevalent?
That's the question, isn't it? Nobody can predict the future with 100% certainty. But we can look at what's happening right now and make some educated guesses.
All right, hit me with those educated guesses. What trends are you seeing?
One of the biggest is this rise of hybrid roles. Jobs that blend technical expertise with those uniquely human skills.
Right, like that AI collaborator we talked about. Someone who's comfortable in both worlds.
Exactly. And we're also seeing entirely new jobs emerge. Things like, AI trainers, AI ethicists, AI explainers even.
AI explainers. Okay, that's a new one. What do they do?
AI explainers are like the bridge between the tech folks and everyone else. They explain how AI works, what it's good at, what its limitations are. They help people use it effectively and responsibly.
So they were like the translators, helping us navigate this new world.
Exactly. And as AI gets more and more complex, that need for clear, concise, accessible explanations, it's just going to keep growing. AI explainers will be in high demand for sure.
I can see that. What other kinds of jobs do you think we'll see?
We'll probably see a big demand for jobs focused on, creativity, innovation, problem solving, all the things that AI is still not that great at.
Because those are the areas where humans still have the edge.
Exactly. AI is a whiz at analyzing data and finding patterns, but it's not so good at coming up with truly original ideas, truly original solutions. That's where humans shine.
So artists, designers, entrepreneurs, anyone who can think outside the box, those folks will be in high demand.
Absolutely. And then there are all the jobs we haven't even thought of yet, the ones that'll emerge as AI evolves and creates entirely new industries and markets. It's an exciting time to be alive, that's for sure.
Exciting and maybe a little bit scary. But instead of always thinking about AI as a job killer, we should also think of it as a job creator.
100%. It's all about perspective, right? It's not a threat, it's a catalyst. For innovation, for growth, for new possibilities.
And that growth can lead to new career paths, maybe even amazing careers that we can't even picture today.
It's true. The key is to stay adaptable, keep learning, and be open to those new possibilities.
So the future of work isn't about humans versus AI. It's about humans and AI working together, right?
Exactly. It's about figuring out how to harness the power of AI to enhance our capabilities, to solve big problems, to create a better future for everyone.
Now that's a vision I can get behind. I love that. We've talked about the skills of the future, the jobs of the future. Now I want to zoom out even further. How is AI going to shape society as a whole?
Oh, wow. That's the question that everyone's trying to figure out, isn't it? Philosophers, sociologists, economists, no easy answers there.
I didn't think so. But what are some of the things we should be thinking about? What are the big concerns?
Well, one of the biggest is that AI could make existing inequalities even worse.
Oh, right, like the income inequality we were talking about earlier. If AI tools are mostly accessible to wealthy people and companies, that's just going to create a bigger divide.
Exactly. If AI is mostly benefiting those who are already ahead, it could really widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely a worry. What can we do to prevent that? How do we make sure that everyone benefits from AI, not just a select few?
That is the question. Well, for starters, everyone needs access to education and training, right? So they can thrive in an AI-driven world.
So it's about democratizing AI education. It can't be just for the elite.
Exactly. Everyone deserves a chance to learn these valuable skills. And we also need to deal with the biases that can creep into AI algorithms, make sure they don't perpetuate or even worsen social inequalities.
Right. Because those algorithms are often trained on biased data, right?
Yes.
Which just reinforces the biases we already have.
Exactly. We have to be really intentional about the data we're using to train these systems, make sure it reflects the diversity of the real world.
So equity is a big one. What other societal impacts should we be considering?
Well, there's the impact on privacy and security. That's huge.
Right, because AI systems are collecting and analyzing so much data about us.
Yeah.
Sometimes without us even knowing it.
Exactly. And that data can be used in all sorts of ways. Some good, some not so good. Targeted advertising, surveillance, even manipulation.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy when you think about it. It seems like we need some pretty strong regulations around AI, especially when it comes to data privacy.
I agree. We have to be super careful about who has access to our data and how it's used. Strong privacy regulations, clear ethical guidelines, all that's going to be critical to make sure AI is being used responsibly.
Okay, so equity, privacy, security, all big issues. Anything else?
Well, we also need to be thinking about how AI might impact democracy and governance.
How so? What do you mean by that?
Think about it. AI can be used to sway public opinion, spread misinformation, even interfere with elections. And we've already seen some examples of this.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. How do we protect ourselves from that kind of manipulation?
That's where regulation and transparency come in. The more powerful AI gets, the more potential there is for misuse, right? So we need safeguards to protect our democratic institutions from AI-powered interference.
It seems like we've got a lot of work to do to make sure AI is truly a force for good in the world.
We do. But I'm optimistic. I think we can rise to the challenge. AI presents both risks and opportunities, and it's up to us to choose the path we want to take.
That's a good reminder that we have agency here. We're not just helpless bystanders in this whole technological revolution. We have a say in how AI is developed and used.
100%. And it starts with these kinds of conversations, considering different perspectives, making informed decisions about how we want to live and work in this AI-driven world. It's not about ignoring it. It's about engaging with it.
And that requires us to be adaptable, resilient, and open to new ways of thinking.
Absolutely. The future of work, it's not something to be afraid of. It's something to embrace with curiosity, with creativity, with a sense of purpose.
I love that. Now, before we wrap up part two, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about AI not just replacing jobs, but also creating new ones.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in the doom and gloom of AI taking over, but there's a whole other side to the story.
Exactly. So what kind of new jobs do you think AI might create? Give me some reasons to be optimistic about the future.
Well, we've already talked about a few, like AI trainers, ethicists, explainers, but honestly, there are so many possibilities, we can't even imagine them all yet.
That's what's so exciting, right? We don't know what the future holds.
Yeah.
But if we stay curious, stay adaptable, and stay open to new possibilities, who knows what amazing new careers we might find.
Exactly. As AI keeps evolving, as new applications emerge, we're going to see new industries pop up, new markets, new opportunities for people to contribute and thrive.
So instead of seeing AI as this job killer, we can also think of it as a job creator. It's a tool, right?
Yeah.
And we can use that tool to solve problems, to create value, to unlock human potential in ways we haven't even thought of yet.
I love that. It's not humans versus AI. It's humans and AI working together to create something even better.
Okay, I'm feeling much more optimistic about the future now. So we've covered a lot in this deep dive. We've talked about the nuts and bolts of AI, the potential impact on the labor market, the societal implications. It's a lot to take in.
It is. It's a big topic.
But before we move on to part three, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder, something to really think about.
I like it. Go for it.
What happens if AI really does become this general-purpose technology that some experts are predicting? What does that mean for the nature of work itself? Will we still define ourselves by our jobs, or will work become something completely different?
Ooh, that's a deep one. It really makes you think. And it's a great transition to part three of our deep dive, where we'll explore those big existential questions about the future of work.
So stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into generative AI and the future of work.
It's been quite a journey, right? We've gone from the basics of generative AI all the way to its potential impact on society as a whole.
Yeah, and in part two, we left off with this big question. What happens to the very nature of work itself if AI really does become a general-purpose technology?
It's a question that gets to the heart of what it means to be human in the 21st century, you know? If AI can automate so much of what we do now, how will we find meaning, purpose? How will we make a living? How will we see ourselves?
Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing to think about. So where do we even begin to unpack all of that? What are some possible scenarios for the future of work?
Well, one scenario is that AI leads to a massive reduction in the need for human labor, you know, widespread unemployment, social unrest, a lot of uncertainty about what comes next.
That's the dystopian vision we often see in sci-fi movies, right? Robots taking over, humans struggling to survive in a world run by machines.
Exactly. And while that's not impossible, it's probably a bit too simplistic. History has shown us that technological advancements usually lead to more jobs, not fewer, although they might be different kinds of jobs than the ones that came before.
So instead of mass unemployment, we might see a shift towards entirely new types of work that we can't even imagine yet.
That's a real possibility, and those new jobs might even be more fulfilling, more creative, and better aligned with our passions and interests than the jobs that get automated.
So AI could actually free us from boring, repetitive work and give us more time and energy to focus on the things that we truly care about. Instead of being afraid of AI taking our jobs, maybe we should see it as a tool that helps us to pursue our dreams.
Now, that's a great way to look at it. AI could be a force for liberation, not just disruption.
I like that. A force for liberation. It's a much more hopeful way to think about the future. What are some other potential scenarios?
Well, another possibility is that AI helps to create a more equitable distribution of wealth and resources.
Really, how could that happen? I mean, we've been talking about how AI could actually worsen existing inequalities.
It's true that AI has that potential, but it also has the potential to do the opposite. Imagine if AI leads to a huge boost in productivity and economic growth. That could create an abundance of goods and services that benefit everyone, not just a select few.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So instead of a world where a small percentage of people control most of the wealth, we could end up with a more prosperous society where everyone has a chance to share in the benefits of AI.
Exactly. AI could help to level the playing field, but it all depends on how we choose to use it. If we prioritize profit over people, then yeah, AI could exacerbate inequality and make things even worse.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the choices we make, the values we prioritize as we integrate AI into our lives.
You got it. Technology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It's up to us to decide which path we want to take.
So we have these two very different paths ahead of us. A dystopian future with widespread unemployment and social unrest, or a utopian future with abundance, equity, and opportunity for everyone.
It might not be quite that black and white, but you get the idea. The future isn't set in stone. It's something we create through our choices and actions.
That's empowering to think about, that we have agency. We're not just helpless passengers on this train. We can steer it in the right direction.
Exactly. And that requires us to be thoughtful, to have these conversations, to consider different perspectives, and to make informed decisions about the kind of world we want to create.
So what can we do as individuals to prepare for the future of work? How do we make sure we're not left behind in this AI-driven world?
Well, first and foremost, embrace lifelong learning. The skills that are hot today might be outdated tomorrow, so be ready to adapt, learn new things, and keep growing.
So it's not about getting that degree and then coasting. It's about always being curious, always seeking out new knowledge and skills.
Exactly. And there are tons of resources out there to help you do that. Online courses, boot camps, mentorship programs. Find what works for you and commit to continuous learning. It's an investment in your future.
Okay, so lifelong learning is key. What else?
Don't neglect those uniquely human skills, the things AI can't replicate. Creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, communication, collaboration, emotional intelligence. Those are the skills that will set you apart in a world where AI is doing more and more of the routine tasks.
So focus on honing those human skills, the things that make you valuable, adaptable, and irreplaceable.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment, take risks, explore new possibilities. The future of work is uncertain, but that also means there's a lot of room for innovation and creativity.
I love that. Embrace uncertainty and be open to new possibilities. I think that's a great message to end on. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive into generative AI.
We have. It's been a great conversation, and I hope our listeners have found it informative and thought-provoking.
We hope you'll continue to explore this topic, keep asking questions, and engage in conversations about the kind of future you want to create.
Remember, the future isn't something that happens to us. It's something we build together.
And as we navigate this exciting and maybe a little bit scary new world of AI, let's approach it with a sense of wonder, a spirit of collaboration, and a commitment to creating a future that works for everyone.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.